Oh, I'm recording. I'm recording already. Hi class. Hi students. Good to see you again. Okay, this week we are moving on to the Mahayana out of the Nikaya. And as we know, Nikaya means sect or schools, and refers to the fact that there were many sects or schools, 18, that developed in this early period. And we also know that the Mahayanists, literally known as the Great Vehicle, those guys had turned around and said that our predecessors, those who came before us, they are to be known as the little vehicles, or the Hinayanists, or the ones that don't quite have it all, like us. And we also remember that in this early tradition, the ideal person was an arhat, one that word can be translated most easily as saint, and one who has achieved enlightenment, and with the help of the teachings of the Buddha, and then once enlightenment is gained, they disappear into everything. That was the idea. And this enlightenment was a very exclusive path. It took a long time, and the idea was that only monks, for the most part, were going to attain this goal of enlightenment. And this idea that one disappeared into everything once one became enlightened, that even went so far as to make this period in early Buddhist history a time when they refused to show images of the Buddha. In art history, it's known as an aniconic time, a time when you do not produce icons. And so really, because you've got a culture in which the cultural norm is understood to be one of reincarnation, when people coming back and back and back, the idea of being aniconic and not showing the Buddha was in a way to say, hey, this is a new norm. In Buddhism, unlike in Hinduism, things don't keep coming back. Once enlightenment happens, you become one with everything. Okay, and we also remember about this early period that the idea of Vinaya, or an order or discipline, was very much held as really the highest ideal, because these folks were trying to take a religion that had started with one person, that expanded during that time into a larger community, but still a small entity as far as institutions go. And these early monks were trying to form an institution, trying to build monasteries, trying to build libraries for scholars, trying to put down what the Buddha said in some kind of narrative. So they were very involved with Vinaya, or creating order, creating discipline. Now, for the Mahayanists, they differ in these three departments. Their ideal person is a bodhisattva, which means literally one whose sattva, or essence, is bodhi, or enlightened, or awakened, is what that means. And a bodhisattva is not just concerned with attaining one's own enlightenment. The idea is that a bodhisattva has the ability to determine rebirth, and that a bodhisattva will continue to be reborn again and again until all sentient beings, that even goes to bugs, all sentient beings have realized enlightenment. So the goal is different. So the ideal person is different, the goal is different, and one of the most prized activities is not the creation of order or discipline, like you saw in the early tradition, but to give. Dana, which both in Pali and Sanskrit means giving. And for those of you who may be a little more cynical out there, who are being critical about this process, may think that there may be a relationship between the growing needs of the monastics in this tradition, as you get more monks and you get more nuns, and their highest ideal being giving, because the ones who were to give were the lay people. Now, also during this period, the path was not exclusive in the same way that it was earlier. In this time period, the path was open to lay people. In other words, the idea that a lay person who was in their home and doing their householder thing, that they could become enlightened too, is very much a part of this tradition. And again, for those rather cynical people out there who think that there might be a relationship between growing monastic traditions, giving, and trying to get a buy-in from the lay people might be correct in thinking that these things might go together. They do in religion, they always do. But also just institutionally, right, they're opening up the doors so that the goal of enlightenment is available for all these different kinds of people. So women actually had many more roles in the Mahayana period, and you're going to read about that in your reading by Paul, and lay people. And the reading that I gave you this week, the Vimalakirti teaching, is all about, it's one of the funniest texts in Buddhism. I don't know if you'll be laughing and rolling on the floor, but it is kind of a goof. Because the idea is that there's this layperson named Vimalakirti, and he gets ill. And the Buddha says to all his disciples, right, all the monks, hey, you guys should go visit Vimalakirti. He's not feeling very well. And each one of the monks tries to get out of it, because Vimalakirti, this layman, teaches them more than they know. Right? And so the idea is that a lay person can actually exceed sort of the wisdom of a monk or a nun. Okay? All right. Now, the other things that were very important during this time period is that while these guys are developing a lot of new sutras,